What is up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Lovely Loners. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at this it's a custom knife factory Tegral with a stop spiker customization on it, and this is on loan from my buddy Sid. Follow him on Instagram there. And let's go ahead and jump right into the features and flaws on this one. First things first, let's go ahead and get a size comparison with the PM2. Ba-bam. This knife does have a little bit of length on the PM2, a little bit of thickness on it as well, but it is more slender in this dimension, as you can see. So overall, it's a pretty reasonable size for everyday carry, but it will be subject to knife laws in states that are not as friendly as my own. So that's your size comparison. Moving on, I was initially concerned with the size and shape of the flipper tab, having used other knives with steep and small tabs like this one. I believe the Custom Knife Factory Muscle was another one, and then I've been straying away from handling or purchasing a Riate Future because of this flipper tab as well. However, I must say the D10 is light enough, and the mild jimping here serves its purpose, making for an ultimately pleasurable deployment experience. So I have to say, the flipper tab is much more functional and much more reasonable than I expected. I don't find myself ever slipping off of it. I don't ever find myself having trouble getting the proper leverage, which is the problem with the Muscle. And so I think they knocked it out of the park. If you're going to do this flipper tab shape, definitely look to this knife for the right geometry in terms of where to set the D10 and everything, because this worked really well. Now, in regards to the action, this knife does fly open and it does drop shut with a bit of a shake, but it does so with a tad of friction. It's nothing too crazy, but it is there. So that is something that I noticed with this knife. It's very mild. The knife is on excellent bearings. It is running very, very smoothly, very, very well, but it is not quite to the level of like a Thorburn or something like that, which is totally fine. I will say that all of the sounds that the knife makes are a little bit tinky for me. Just kind of shut up for a second and open and close the knife a couple times. I don't know how well it'll come through on the mic, but let's see. So it's got a little bit of that high pitch to it, a little bit of that lightness in sound. It's not quite as thwackish or as sudden or instant as I appreciate on other knives, especially at this price point. So that was something that bummed me out a little bit, was just, you know, and it is fair. It's the sound of a production knife, and frankly, this is a production knife. It just has the stop spiker customization, which we'll get to in a moment. So it's nothing unreasonable, but it just is a bit of an underwhelming sound in both the open and the close. I have to say, though, this knife is an integral, and for an integral, the overall construction and the fit and finish and the tolerances are excellent. The centering is completely dead on. Everything just fits really well. Everything looks good. Everything looks symmetrical and smooth, and they really knocked it out of the park in terms of designing an integral. So I'm definitely appreciative of that. And while it is M390 steel, the blade shape leaves something to be desired for many people I've spoken to. It's obviously a matter of personal preference, but I feel like this particular blade shape has fewer fans than usual. It has this kind of beak shape to it, this little harpoon tip that's all the way pushed to the front of the knife. And I think that it's got a really cool flow in the overall design of the knife, so I actually appreciate it on this particular knife. They've really designed the overall shape of the knife with this blade shape in mind. So I really like the kind of free-flowing lines. I have a picture of this knife up on Instagram right now that I think is absolutely stellar. I think this knife looks great from a side profile, but it is a blade shape that I know has pushed quite a few people away because of how unique it is. So that is something to consider. You know, if you don't like the blade shape, it might not be the knife for you. My favorite part about this knife from a functional standpoint, however, is the clip. This is the single greatest clip that I have ever used on any knife. I want to be very clear about that. I am dumbfounded. I am wickedly impressed with the overall functionality of this clip. It glides over the edge of the pocket with no effort from one hand, and yet it manages to hold firm even under the duress of gravity. I am absolutely floored by how well this clip functions. I want every knife maker out there that does 3D milled titanium clips to go pick up one of these Tegrals and shove it in their pocket and learn a thing or two, because I literally want this knife just for the clip. Like, carrying this knife in my pocket is more fun than using lots of knives when they're open. Like, I was so impressed with the clip. So I'm not going to focus on that too much because it is just a clip, but I really have to say they killed it with this clip. It functions so freaking well. It's unbelievable. Moving on, this knife does lack an over travel stop, and the first time that I opened it, I went like, whoa, like all the way out there. So it is something that you need to be aware of if you get the knife. You don't want to do damage to the tension or anything like that by pushing it too far past. But that was something that was interesting to me, that not a lot of knives these days lack an over travel stop of some form, whether or not they use the bolster or a steel lock insert or the little circle like hinderers or whatever. Just, I feel like, or their liner locks, obviously. I feel like most knives these days have some form of an over travel stop. So it was interesting to come across this one. It's very light tension on the lock bar as well, so it's really easy to overextend. So definitely watch out for that. And then finally, I do have to say this knife has absolutely fantastic ergonomics. So if we hold the knife in a saber grip like this, it feels very comfortable. In typical Custom Knife Factory fashion, there is no jimping, which I don't super mind. It's not too big of a deal. But there is this hollow contouring to the handle. See if I can show that off at all. Hollow contouring to the handle that really lets your hand kind of get in there and feel really comfortable. It's just a very soft, smooth finish. And overall, the knife is really well designed for saber grip. My two fingers kind of fit into this section here. Excuse me. And these two fingers kind of, it all just works, right? My fingers close naturally like this. I'm right where I want to be up here. My thumb's right where it wants to be. And it's got a great saber grip. And then beyond that, it has a great pinch grip as well. I previously mentioned the hollow contouring. What that does is allow for an excellent pinch grip, because what you have here is it's hollow ground up to here, and then it's kind of a convex bevel up here, convex contouring up here. And so what happens is with the pinch grip is, you get this finger around here, you get your thumb pushed right in here where the concave contouring is, and then anytime you're using pinch grip, right, it's usually it's a slicing motion. Which, by the way, this this shallow flipper tab does make for a good slicing motion here. But that's typically what you're doing in a pinch grip, is a slicing motion like this, whether it's food prep or something like that. And so what you have is, the more pressure that you put on the spine of the blade, the more grip you actually get, because what you're doing is you're pushing the convex contour down into the thumb, and so your thumb gets seated even further into the concave contouring, and it would have to slip all the way up and around. It would have to come out of the concave area and slip up and around the concave area. Sorry, I'm using these words too much. I'm getting myself confused, but I think you get the point what I mean. I'm pushing down this way, which is giving me better control over here on the thumb, because the thumb gets seated even more into the concave area. So it functions very well. It's got great ergonomics. I really appreciate that about this knife. And that about does it for the features and flaws on this one, guys. Next, I really want to talk about, I want just to go over the whole Stoss-Spiker customization thing. So for those of you who are uninitiated, Custom Knife Factory, they make their production models, and then they send out some of those production models to Stoss-Spiker, who you can follow on Instagram here, and he does like full customizations of their knives, which are then sold through from Russia with knives. I've been definitely eyeballing his work for a while. He's got some pretty extravagant knives available through Custom Knife Factory, and I remember when this one went up for sale, I was actually super excited about it, and I didn't pull the trigger. This was a while ago. I didn't quite have the money or anything like that, but luckily my friend Sid did become the owner of this knife and was kind enough to send it along. So let's just take a moment to really review what's going on here. So the first thing that we have is this pattern that is milled into the titanium frame. It's kind of like, they almost look like little fidget spinners, these little tri-shaped patterns. And you can see the inlay is a separate piece of material, and he's continued the pattern machined into the inlay with perfect precision, which is really pretty. I really appreciate that. That's spectacular. And then you can start to see he has this kind of diagonal line finish that goes through the inlay, through the pivot, and up through the blade, is matched on this side and carries through the clip as well. And it's all the same angle, so everything matches. Everything is flush all the way through. They're all the same diagonal angle, which I really appreciate. It's a really nice attention to detail. I'm going to just take a moment to kind of try to show that off to you guys. So you can see that's really consistent and just looks fantastic. Now, obviously, this finish does go through the whole blade, which makes it not exactly a working finish, but this is a bit more of a collector's piece to begin with, so I think that's definitely reasonable. On the spine of the knife, we have a continuation of the tri-pattern, or the tri-pronged pattern. And it's machined very, very carefully into the back here. And I don't even know if this is going to show up on camera, but yeah, I think it is. You can see there's these tiny little horizontal lines that are all milled right into the recess of this pattern. It's just fantastic. The level, the attention to detail, and the quality level of the machining is just really next level. It's really high-end stuff. So I'm super appreciative of that. And then really just the clip continuing this kind of tricolor diagonal pattern. And then up here, I'm seeing if I can show it to you. There's like oranges and purples and blues and greens and all kinds of interesting complex hues going on through the inlays here all around these patterns. They interact differently with hand oils and with different types of light, and you just get all these really interesting different hues all throughout the knife. And then, of course, you have the Stoss Biker logo right here. And, man, he just really knocked it out of the park with this one. All of this machining work and everything is just really high quality, and I think this knife is absolutely beautiful. It's a total stunner. So thanks so much for watching, guys. If you would like to send me a lovely loaner as well, just as Sid has done with this beautiful knife, you can do so by emailing me at tovarishworks@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram to see beautiful pictures of this knife and many other knives at tovarishworks. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.